Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about my journey, my salary progression as a software engineer living in New York City. I've been living in New York City for quite a while now. I've been working as a software engineer for the same company, but I just wanted to showcase with you guys the journey that it took for me to get here. Growing up, I was always watching these 2000s rom-coms and they were all based in New York City, along with the New York City vloggers like Kelly Wakasa and Fung Bros who do Eats in New York City. So that's why I always wanted to just basically come to New York City and work. But it wasn't always easy getting here. When I was growing up, I remember all my American friends were getting allowances from their parents. I remember asking them like, how did you get money? And they're just like, oh, my parents give me money every month. And basically when I went to my parents and told them about it, they were just so confused that these parents were giving their kids money for free. And I was just like, everyone's getting it. Why am I not getting anything? And they told me that I basically needed to work in order to get my money. I needed money because I wanted to buy Pokemon cards back then. I was a huge Pokemon collector. I was just trying to collect all of the EX cards because all these kids were trading Pokemon cards and I was just so into Pokemon back then. So I needed to get Pokemon cards. So what I did was I ended up going around to my neighborhood, asking people to mow their lawn and shovel their snow. A few houses were kind of wary that a little kid is going around and asking them about doing chores for them. But some houses were really nice and they actually paid me $15 to shovel their snow and mow their lawn. And 15 back then was so much for me because I remember that I could buy 3 Pokemon packs with it and each pack had a chance of getting a rare card. So I was super excited. However, one day our lawnmower broke, and because our lawnmower broke and it was the summer, I couldn't really mow lawns for money anymore. So I needed to think of something else in order to do. At that time, I realized I actually bought enough Pokemon cards and got enough rare Pokemon cards in order to start selling them online. For those of you who don't know, Pokemon cards are worth a decent amount of money.
It is $1 million card, baby.
And back then, I basically just created a YouTube channel and I started showcasing the Pokemon cards that I had, seeing what Pokemon cards other people had, and seeing if they want to buy any of mine. Back then, I don't remember if you know this, but YouTube actually allowed you to direct message other users. So basically, I was just cold emailing these other YouTube users and asking them if they wanted to check out any of my Pokemon card collection, if they wanted to buy it or not. But this wasn't really sustainable because I basically didn't tell my parents that I had this whole like Pokemon flipping business going on YouTube. And I actually got scammed a few times because what happens was I would send them over the card and they would never send me the money. And that was such a rookie mistake. You always get the money first, but I was so small back then. I think I was in like middle school that I just really didn't know any better. I started losing these rare Pokemon cards and my parents didn't know, and I was just like, this is just gonna be a bad idea. So I stopped doing that. Once high school came, I ended up getting a job again in junior year because in junior year I ended up getting a girlfriend, and at the time my girlfriend really wanted to go to Starbucks every single day because that was her favorite. I think it was all the fad back then. So basically every day we were going to Starbucks and I was paying for her every other day, and basically after 2 weeks I ran out of money for my girlfriend. So I was like, crap, I wanted to take her out on nice dates, and so I basically needed to get a job again. But I was also pretty young at the time, so a lot of places wouldn't take me. Eventually I ended up job searching and getting a job at Kumon. Kumon is a tutoring company for little kids, and basically I was tutoring little kids and a lot of times their parents would be there. At Kumon I was making just above minimum wage at about $10 an hour, which is great because I got to work part-time after school, but it was bad because it got really boring to me and I ended up falling asleep a few times while at work, so that wasn't really great. But a few of the parents would always go up to me and ask me if they could get more sessions private tutoring their kids, and in the beginning I would say no because like I already had a great job and it was like very stable. But then they were like, oh, we'll give you $20 per hour if you teach our kids math or SAT tutoring. And I was like, wow, that's like double the amount of money I get per month. That's great. I'll definitely take it. So then I ended up tutoring these kids. I would go into these kids' houses, their parents would invite me, and I would tutor them for like 2 hours in math and SAT, and they would basically give me like $40. And that was great because now I could take my girlfriend out on dates and I was making a lot more money than I did back then. My parents were actually researchers at the time when I was growing up, so I always thought I was going into medicine because that was the only track that they taught me how to do. So junior year summer, I actually got an internship at the National Institute of Health in their drug abuse department. It was super dope for me because it was my first sort of like full-time summer internship that was paid, and basically they were offering me $4,500 for the summer, which was insane because I didn't have to pay for rent, I didn't have to pay for food because I was living with my parents, and I also got paid just for going there and doing work. And I really didn't do that much work at the time because I was an intern and they didn't really trust me with the heavy stuff. So every day I would basically just go to work, come back, and made $4,500 over the summer. And you know, if I invested that money back then into Bitcoin, I would have been a multi-millionaire now. My dumbass little brain self decided to invest in McDonald's and a new iPhone. So now I basically am not a millionaire. So yeah. When college came, I had to pay for a lot of the random stuff that college came with, including school supplies, making friends, being cool, going to these parties, you know, the living room supplies, and I also had to pay for food sometimes when going out on the weekends. So I basically needed money again because I was using a lot of it, and I basically depleted all the money that I earned so far. I definitely found my strong suits in tutoring and teaching. So basically I applied for online programs that allow you to teach remotely because I wasn't able to teach in person, or in person would be a lot more work. So I applied for this company called CollegeVine, and CollegeVine is a college consulting company back then. Not sure if it's still alive today, but it was really cool because I was one of their first members. I remember the interview was very easy because they needed people to start working for them ASAP. And here I was, a undergraduate student working for helping high school kids get into undergrad. So basically I was working as a resume tutor and also this like admissions consultant helping people with their college essays. This was an amazing job for me because it was not only part-time, I could pick my hours that I wanted because I was also busy, doing college kid stuff. Not really. But I also earned $35 an hour. That was a huge amount of money. That was like the most amount of money I've ever earned in my past life so far. Instead of investing in it as well, I actually used that money on transfer applications and ended up transferring to a different school. That summer of the year that I transferred, which was freshman year, I was still a pre-med back then. So basically I worked in a research lab. I worked in like one of the Vanderbilt research lab program summer internship thingies, and they were paying $6,000 for the whole summer, which was really nice because I actually found a job that I could put on a resume, but it was just kind of shitty because I would have to pay for my own rent, which was like $1,200 a room. And then after food and everything for this whole summer, I didn't really end up with that much money. So it was basically just getting by, and I was in bumfuck nowhere. Then everything changed my sophomore year of college. So one of my childhood friends was actually working at Nordstrom as a software engineering intern at the time, but I wasn't dealing in anything with software engineering, so I didn't really care. But he just wanted to refer a bunch of people because, he would get a certain amount of money from it. So he asked me if he could refer me to the job. And at the time I said, I'm not really looking to. He just said, it never hurts. Why don't you just put your name down instead? So I put my name down. Somehow I got the interview, and honestly, I don't know how I got to the interview, and even more, I don't know how I passed the interview because they asked me questions on data structures, and I didn't really know coding that well back then. I only had like an AP Comp Sci course that I took, but they were really nice. The interview was really nice. They walked me through the whole problem, and I was super surprised when I got it. Eventually, I ended up taking that offer, and because I had this research lab internship, lined up, and it was also $6,000 for the whole summer, just like previous year. But the Nordstrom guy called me and he was like, yo, like, we're gonna pay you $42 an hour, and you get free housing, and you get paid living expenses, and you get to move to Seattle. And I was like, holy crap, Seattle sounds so fun, way better than like in the middle of nowhere the whole summer. I was just like, this might be a once in a lifetime opportunity, might as well take it. Let's try it out. I might fail, but never know what happens. And then ended up being one of the best summers of my life, and I made around like $18,000 in the summer, and it was like quite easy. So I was like really shook. I was like, holy crap, this is just so much better than what I did before. And so this opened up my world to the realm of tech, and that summer I grinded my ass off studying leak code every single day, learning Python, learning Java, just so I can pass tech interviews and get an internship for next summer. The reason was because when I was growing up, I actually didn't know that it was possible to make 6 figures out of college unless you became like a doctor or a lawyer, and you had to go through more schooling for that. But here there were these kids in Seattle who were making way more than 6 figures a year, and they were all in tech and they were new grads, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. After a ton of ups and downs, failing interview after interview, I finally got my dream position as a software engineering intern at Facebook. This was one of the most coveted positions for me because they also had the best perks. I remember being paid $8,000 a month, and they also had some of the most amazing perks, including they had free housing, free internship parties, free food, they had free transportation, and I was also going to live in Menlo Park with a bunch of other interns, and it was super fun. That summer was also one of my favorite summers because everything was so new to me. They basically provided us with everything, and it was great. From this, I was actually able to convert to a full-time job after finishing my senior year of college, and they were basically offering me a certain amount of total compensation. Tech jobs are kind of unique. They do things a bit weirdly. They give you a base, they give you a bonus on that base, a sign-on bonus, and also stock options. So basically, Facebook actually for me gave me the most amount of money compared to my other options, and so basically I took Facebook because it was also a public company. And here's what it means. So stock options for a regular like startup company, you basically aren't sure if you're actually going to get the money unless the company IPOs. But because I was working at a public company that already IPO'd, my money was in cash. But they didn't give you this cash all at once. They do this thing where they call it vesting schedules, where they basically withhold the amount of money from you and give it to you year after year. Sort of like your parents kind of holding money from you when you were little, when you get money, and giving to you slowly when you grow up. And I was really fortunate enough to be able to get New York City as my location because a lot of people were telling me that, not to go to Menlo Park, and I just wanted to try something new, really love New York City, and they were giving me a total compensation of around $190,000. This seemed a lot to me at the time because it was more than 6 figures, but I didn't know that New York City had so many taxes. I was hit with the state and city tax and some other taxes, which took like 40% off. I was also doing like content creation at the time. I was making TikTok and YouTube videos throughout COVID and after I started. So basically I was making an extra like 40 to 50 grand per year before New York taxes. Finally, after working here for a few years, after getting promoted and just like, getting more into the industry, just saving up more money, I make around $280,000 a year. And this also has to do with the stock price going up, but it's just been so nice so far, except for the fact that I have to pay for an insane rent and also the New York City and state tax, which has been taking off a lot. But it's been great. I'm really happy with how far I came, just from like not even knowing CompSci existed to all the way to like becoming a software engineer. And this is like one of the positions that I would always tell people to go into because it has also the best work-life balance. Hopefully my story motivated you guys. Maybe that convinced you to go into tech. I don't know, but I really appreciate you watching, and make sure to subscribe, like, and comment for more videos. Comment any questions that you have for me, maybe about my life or just about how I got here. Would really appreciate it, and hopefully I'll be able to answer it in the upcoming videos. Bye-bye.